Hey guys, welcome back to Pokemon TCG Pocket. In today's video, we have a bit of a special one. I always love doing this thing in games that I play where we get other creators on, and today we do have SPRAGELS and Willow joining us. And if you do have any other content creators in the space that you want to see me connect with in the future, please let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to get around to everyone, because these conversations are always just a fun, casual thing to do. And if you have any questions or any inputs, please put them in the comments. Let's kick it off with you, SPRAGELS. Just introduce yourself, where we can find you, and what you're doing with Pocket and everything beyond.
Awesome. Hi, my name's Jake. I call myself SPRAGELS. I call myself a content cowboy as well, and I say yeehaw. It's a catchphrase I developed that I regret all the time. I make Pokemon Unite content on my main channel on YouTube, and I'm making a ton of Pocket content on SPRAGELS Pocket. And I've got a tournament coming up with a bunch of content creators hosted by myself and Dexter this coming Monday, the 28th at 5 p.m. You can see it streaming live on Dexter's Twitch and my YouTube. And I think that's everything. Thanks for having me.
And I'll leave everything in the description and pinned comment as well. And I'll also leave a link to the trailer that he made for this tournament, because it's A-class comedy. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was well
good.
done.
I'm glad you liked it. Yeah.
And now you, Willow.
Yeah, I'm Willow, CCG. I'm I can't speak! I'm on a podcast. I'm a professional content creator. I can speak. I believe in myself. It's only 6 a.m., okay? Alright, I am mainly known in the card game space. Pokemon Pocket is my first entry to the Pokemon TCG. I never played the original TCG. When the game first came out, I was mainly streaming, but now I'm focused on more prepared video content, which you can see on my YouTube channel, Willow CCG. And I also have a weekly Pokemon Pocket podcast with Dexter as well. I'm also Dexter's friend. He's not just your friend, SPRAGELS. Okay.
Look at the connection.
So yeah, you can check out either that on Spotify or on my YouTube channel.
Spotify, there you go. I've never figured out how to put anything on Spotify. Maybe I should do that one day, but I'll get professional one day. We'll get there. But the first thing I want to talk about with Pocket in general is, how do you guys find the combat system itself? Like, are you guys like enjoying it? Do you have any issues with it? Like, what's your general thoughts around battling as a whole?
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I know there's a lot of people who have problems with the large number of coin flip effects and things like that, but honestly, Pokemon Pocket is kind of a return to form for me, because I played Marvel Snap for so long, which is a card game that doesn't do any direct combat or any direct trading with units or damage dealing or anything like that. So it's been really fun to kind of go back to a traditional ideal damage to your health bar until you reach 0, and then I win. So yeah, it's been really fun for me, and I haven't found myself getting bored of it just yet. Although I think I have gotten to the point now where I've built a deck for every card, but I'm degenerate. I play the game for like 12 hours straight every day, so
That's fair. I'm in the degenerate phase of playing Licky Tongue every day now, trying to get my max damage on my profile up.
I did that on like day 2 or something. I got a Licky Tongue for like 360 damage. I was really happy, and then
yeah. And the thing, I feel like what this game is trying to do is make you feel massive emotions. Because the way the coin flips work, like, you think about it, like, if you play Misty turn 1 and you get heads, you're like, hey, this is the best game ever. You get tails, you're like, I always get tails, and my opponent always gets heads. And it's like, and the opposite way around. It's the same when I'm playing Sand Slash. It's like, if I'm playing, when I'm playing Marowak EX, it's like, I always go into it and I'm like, there is a 25% chance I win an unwinnable game with this card, and there's 25% chance that I lose the unlosable game with this card. And it's just like everything's meant to make you like feel like really emotional when you're playing the game. I don't know if you get that vibe, Spraggle, and what do you think about combat?
Yeah, I fully agree with you, by the way. One of the most fun decks I ever made was horrible. It was like, I can't remember, it was like Kingler, Seeking, or something. Every card that I put in the deck, and Misty, every card had a flip mechanic the whole way through. And when you win with those decks, you do feel real. It's really exciting, especially on stream when the most ridiculous thing happens. Like, the only way for us to win this is if we get 2 heads with Misty, followed by 2 heads with Kingler, or whatever it was. Like, those moments are very exciting. exciting. And I agree with you. I think this game does a few things. Like, we could talk about collecting and opening packs here in a bit, but they do a few things that like really spike that dopamine. Like, whoa, we did it. Or yeah, whoa, first turn, my Lapras got 5 heads on a Misty. Like, holy, you have a lot of moments like that. I also think because of that, it doesn't feel as bad when you lose, if that makes sense. So you kind of go like, yeah, we ran into this. It wasn't going to be too good for us. And it wasn't. Moving on to the next match. One thing that I really do appreciate about a game like this, and this is probably just the dad in me now that I have, ever since I had my daughter, it feels like if you can give me a game that I can play in short bursts where I don't have to sit down and play a game of League of Legends that could last an hour, like I can play like some games of Pocket, or I can play a game of Unite, another Pokemon game they made. Those matches are max 10 minutes. I think this is a strategy a lot of devs are looking at now where everyone's time is so crazy divided. There's so many apps on your phone. There's so many other things that you could be doing. And if they focus on these like short, fun matches, I think people really like lock into it. And I've enjoyed it a lot for Pocket. I've enjoyed the battle system in a huge way. It's not as in-depth as the TCG, but they're not trying to make the TCG. They're trying to make a product that could probably funnel people into playing like their world championships or their card game live and all that, buying booster boxes of that. But also they're just trying to make something that is way faster, way easier to pick up, simple for people, something that if you are intimidated by a card game, this is like perfect for you. It's really not intimidating. It's very simple to get started. And then the more and more you play, you kind of find a surprising amount of depth with a lot of what's going on. So I think it's pretty genius what they've set up, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. Because I play the physical TCG with my son, and I used to play on the other mobile app as well for it. And the thing that I loved about Pocket was it just removed my most hated things from the actual TCG, which was energy cards in deck and prize cards. And it removed those two things and made it super fast, because an actual TCG card game can actually take you like 20, 25 minutes depending on, how you're playing it. Whereas this is like you said, it's quick, it's in, it's out, and it's done. But I wanted to quickly backtrack to something you said, because when you said it doesn't feel as bad when you lose, I definitely think that's a thing. Like, from your experience, obviously you won't have a quantifiable number, but what percentage of the games that you play that either you won or lost, do you think there was no chance for another result in that game, and it just comes down to hands and flips?
Dang, that's a great question. I haven't really thought about that. I think probably at least a quarter of the time you were gonna, like, the result was almost predetermined. Maybe that's a little too high, but there are just some times where I feel like the result's a little predetermined, and then the rest of the time it would be skill and flips, right? I don't know what you would think.
Yeah, I reckon it's around 50% of the games. It's like, because if you just don't get, like, if you're playing an evolution deck and you don't get that evolution first turn, they do. It's just game over. Like, like, it takes a really lucky draw, or like drawing into Professor's Research, getting the 2 cards you need to come back from that stuff. Which I honestly don't mind, because once again, it's early stages. The game will evolve, and then we'll be able to build more consistent decks. Because the problem is you can't, and it's one I don't know if it's a problem or a feature, that you can't build super consistent decks because you've only got 20 cards. At the moment, there's a lot of dead trainers in your deck. Like, obviously, they all have a use. If you get a potion, your XP, they all have a use, but they're not adding to the straight efficiency of building the board that you want to build. So I do think there are a lot, but I also think it's really awesome when you get into a game, even if you lose the game, where you go, that error cost me the game, because then you're actually expanding on your knowledge of the game, and then you can do better next time. What do you think about that, Willow? Because you're a bit of a competitive man.
I feel like almost every single game I find myself thinking like, oh, if he just drew this in a different sequence and I drew this in a different sequence, I could have won. Or like, if this coin flip went this way, I feel like there's always something at the end of the game that I can, whether it's cope or not, I can think, well, if it went this other way, I could have still won. So that's probably a really good thing. And it's really interesting because there's kind of a dramatically different design approach to this game as opposed to a lot of modern card games, which a lot of modern card games try to you talked about the idea of there being like large ceilings of excitement where like, oh, this very exciting moment happened because of some double coin flip or something, and now I get to win the game. A lot of card game developers are trying to narrow that band, so there'll be less of a excitement ceiling, but there'll be less feelings of disappointment on both sides of the table. So they try to narrow the levels of excitement so that there's kind of a better average, and so that no player is ever feeling bad. But in Pokemon Pocket, they're more than willing to let you Misty on turn 1, Blizzard on turn 1, and instantly win the game, even if it makes the other player feel awful. As long as one player had a really good time, Pokemon Pocket's okay with it. And I think that's a really bold design decision, and I'm happy to see that people are still able to have fun in spite of that, because again, it's been a design trend recently in card games, and I'm happy that they're kind of bucking that trend, because I think it makes for some pretty exciting games, and maybe it comes at the downside of a slightly less competitive environment, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, it's actually something that SPRAGELS said has kind of like changed my viewpoint on it, where it's like, because a lot of games you can just put it up to, you know, the RNG. I think what they've actually done, now that I'm thinking through this in real time, is they've made a game that is super exciting, even in the battling concept, and like gives you that dopamine rush. Yes, when your opponent gets 4 flips on Misty turn 1, it feels bad, but you just go, that was out of my control, I move on. And so you do get the extreme highs, but the highs are much bigger than the lows, because you just go, I couldn't have won that, moving on to the next game. So I think the way they've built that excitement into the actual battling concept has been done in a way where the positive outweighs the negative. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, probably, right? I mean, then again, it's really going to depend on how everybody feels once this game launches, right? Because a lot of the people who are playing right now are very, like, enthusiast gamers. Like, we're like, let's go. We want to play the newest thing. We all want to fly to New Zealand, or however people are playing it, and, like, end up getting the game. So I do think that's how it feels for me right now, but I wonder what everyone's going to feel like when this game goes global, because the player base is going to increase in like insane fashion. People are going to be playing games like crazy, and we're going to see how everyone feels about Misty Articuno. Like, are people going to be like, this is the stupidest game I've ever played? We'll see.
See, the Misty Articuno thing is a funny one, because the majority of times I come up to it, they do just instant tails and then scoop. Mm-hmm. They just leave. Yep. It's like, oh, well, it's a free win on my record. Let's keep going. You know what I mean? So I think Misty's like pretty decently balanced in my opinion, because 50% of the time it's a dead card.
It's like, it is kind of. I mean, you would never not want to have it in a water deck. It's just so cheesy, and I don't know, like, decently balanced. I get what you're saying, especially when someone just flips it and then they immediately concede. Like, I get, they're like, okay, bye. But at the same time, I don't know. If there's a card that kind of breaks how the game works, I don't think it is that bad. Like, Misty is the only card, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe there's something else, but I think it's the only card that lets you attack turn 1 and breaks the rule of the game. So I think maybe they would need to... I honestly think it's probably the only balanced thing in the game that they need to address in some way.
Yeah, actually, that's something that hit me off guard in this game, because you've played the physical TCG as well, haven't you? Or like whether online or whatever. In that game, turn 1, if you go first, you can't attack and you can't use supporters, but you can place energy. In this game, it's the complete opposite. You can't place energy, you can use supporters, and you can attack. And I was just like, I don't know what the design philosophy is to flip it on its head from the actual TCG to this version of the game. But hey, it is what it is, and Misty can slap. I just hope there's not like another card that comes into the game that's like just a free +1, kind of like Brock but universal, because like Brock can't impact the game on turn 1 because you can't attack with anything. Right. Because if there's like a universal +1 energy turn 1, I'm going to use my Jigglypuff, my new Jigglypuff, and put you straight to sleep. It's like, come on, guys, please.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see like how they balance with that. I'm guessing, just based on what you were talking about there, I'm guessing that there's got to be other cards that will interact in some way to allow you to attack on turn 1, because it's a feature in the game. So after Genetic Apex, we may run into another set where we're like, if you thought Misty was broken, like, get ready.
I'm really curious, because Man, I want to know the data on Misty. I want to know how often having Misty in your opening hand as the player going first is actually changing the outcome of the game. Because it feels really bad when you play even something as small as like a Lapras and you land that coin flip on turn 1 and you get to swing for 20 before the opponent does. I wonder how often that would actually be changing the game, because a lot of people, I mean, I'm sure you saw this a lot in your chat on day 1. A lot of people were complaining about energy attach advantage for going second. You're the first person who gets to attach energy for turn. And then when people realized Misty could swing on turn 1, everyone wanted to complain about that. And my mind immediately did the, well, hold on. You complained that you had like a first turn disadvantage when you went first. Well, now you have like a pseudo advantage for being able to attach Return of Misty and kind of catch up on that tempo. And now all of a sudden you have a problem with it. And it's like, well, yeah, it's basically, it's like, yeah, I'm very curious about the actual Misty data, which they will never give us, but I'll always want to know.
I guess it would depend, right, on what deck you're running Misty with, because Misty, if you're running it with, I mean, I guess even like a Starmie EX, that's like pretty insane because you'll attack like on turn 3, you'll be fully powered up too. But if you're running Articuno Misty and you flip heads, like if you get 2 heads, that's insane. If you get a 3rd heads, the game is over, which is unlikely, right? But that is an insta win. So I think if you get Misty in your hand, maybe it doesn't change it an insane amount. But if Misty happens to get even 2 heads, I bet the game is like the win rates would be stacked,
for sure.
You know.
It's an interesting one, but yeah, I'm super curious to see where they go, because I think they've got a really good foundation, and I do think the flips are something that, love it or hate it, it does add that excitement to the game. As for the energy, like I always try and build decks now. When I'm building like off-meta decks, I always try and have like one line that uses a 1 cost and another line that's more beefy, so that if I do go first, I have an option for that to be a good result going first. Because if you have a stage 2 with a 1 cost, say 30-40 damage, it's actually not too bad going first, because you get to start swinging with pressure earlier than your opponent and setting up a bigger wall sort of thing. But we'll have to wait and see. But the next thing I want to talk about, because it's something I've been seeing a lot in my comments, especially in like the last 2 days worth of videos, is the game getting stale for you guys, or are you still enjoying it? And then we'll proxy off that of what can they do to sort of make it more entertaining. We'll kick it off with you, Spraggles.
Yeah, I think, look, the way we play games is different from the way most everybody plays games. Maybe that's not entirely true. Like, we play it not only for enjoyment, but we kind of grind it in some weird ways as a content creator that you probably wouldn't do otherwise. And I like to remind myself of that sometimes if something feels sort of stale or it feels like something you've talked over a bunch. You know, there are a lot of people out there that really haven't experienced this in the same way. Also, I mean, the game is for it to be stale at this point would be rough, because the game has kind of been soft launched. It's like brand new.
And soft launch, that's the key part. It's like you never deliver everything in soft launch, which is definitely a massive disclaimer about it.
That's absolutely true. And there are still features that even once it hits global won't be there. Like, clearly trading won't be there when it hits global. I don't think ranked, I don't think there's any way it will be there once it hits global. But those are all things that you could easily see in the future for this game. I try to take a little time with a new game to remind myself also that this is like, there's only one time I'm going to get to experience all of this for the first time. So I try to keep that in my mind as well. Me personally, I've really loved my sort of experience with Pocket so far. At first, it felt like every meta deck you would see, like every time you'd run into just Mewtwo Gardevoir, every time you'd run into Articuno 18 Trainer or something like that, you'd think this game has been solved. And then the more I would play, I would really enjoy kind of experimenting with like only 1 prize card decks and a lot of the cards that you don't see too much. So for me, I have not found it to be stale yet at all, but I could imagine a content creator saying I'm bored already. And that's kind of our unfortunate, like, the cross we bear, I guess, as content creators.
Yeah, definitely. I think it just comes down to, and this wasn't me saying it, this was just what I've just seen in the comments. It was like the top comment in my last 2 videos. I think it's just because the fact that it is a. I feel like they poised it as a collection first, battling second. But even I think back to like Duel Links when it first came out, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, which is kind of like, you know, it's not a one-for-one comparison, but it was like the shortened version of Yu-Gi-Oh! Even that in its original form was they did a lot better with like PvE progression, which, hey, once again, we're still in soft launch, but it was like still like very basic meta where whoever got the biggest beat stick on field first wins. Like it was, these games do evolve a lot over time, especially from pre-release to release to like 6 months after. So I definitely think there's a lot of room. But if you're someone who has been grinding and playing games nonstop, for me, I still have fun. I love playing every deck that I play, just grinding out a bunch of games and doing that. But yeah, if you've only got one deck, let's say, and that's all you can play because you're playing free to play and you haven't had the luck, then it could get a bit stale. But what do you think, Willow?
I think if you feel like the game is stale right now, the biggest thing to remember is that anything that you would normally expect from a new game release, like first week they'll do like some patch and new content or something like that,
Events.
all of that stuff,
Yep.
they're not doing it because the game's not out. The game is only in New Zealand, which, you know, I love my New Zealand brethren, but it's a very small region, so it's not like they're going to do content drops or even cosmetic drops or anything like that. So we're in the slowest, most boring area of the game that there will ever be. Everything moving forward will be significantly more fast-paced than this. You briefly mentioned PvE there, and I'll mention this. I don't think PvE is like going to be like a huge focus of the game,
No.
but if you go to any of the PvE missions, they do say in brackets genetic apex. So when they do more sets, there will be more PvE content if that is your jam. At least I assume there will be, or else it would be weird that they would call those genetic apex PvE missions. But yeah. Basically there is content to come, and if you feel like the game's stale, I don't think that will last. I think it'll quickly liven up as we move into launch and slowly get some of these new features that we're hoping for.
Yeah, and when you talk about
I think
those,
I could.
Oh, you go, Spraggles.
If I could jump in really quick, yeah, because I got to play this game in a like closed demo before the soft launch. They had like a little closed demo here in LA for it, and a lot of what we're talking about, it's not like there was a ton of other stuff, but there are PvE missions that are like event missions to unlock those promo cards that you see people have data mined. There's specific wonder pick things that are based on like little timed events, and of course with a global launch and stuff like that, they want to give people a lot of content. So I could imagine that every few days or at least every week you're going to be seeing cycles of new like PvE event stuff, and the more people that play this, like the more content they're going to add. They're going to quickly be adding content to keep people engaged and hopefully for them spending a bunch of money. So yeah, if you're worried about the content being a little light, it's the soft launch. They're not giving you any of the cool stuff yet.
Yeah, I've played so many, like, a bit of a different realm, but gotcha games where you go through like these like early access periods, and like some of them last for 6 months to a year, and you think, wow, this game's and then global launch happens, and then it's like event, like stuff going on, new patch, like it happens really quick once they can actually make money from the effort that they're putting in. This is more of just a baseline test, make sure the game functions, make sure there's nothing absolutely broken, and then they can move forward. I think it's pretty fair. But how do you guys feel about the packs, the collection side of the game as a whole, you know, rare cards, anything like that? We'll kick it off to you this time, Willow.
Yeah, I'm super happy with it. I was a little concerned on the first couple days because I went into this game wanting full collection as quickly as possible because I'm a card game player, so I just want to play with all the cards. So I full spent for the first 3 days until I had full collection, and the first 2 days I got like really unlucky. I was like, man, I feel like this doesn't feel very good. Like if you full spent and you didn't get lucky, it feels pretty bad. But if you actually do the math, on average, you're looking at a pretty good result, even as just like a free-to-play player. I don't have the math in front of me. I should have pulled it up. But at some point, I did the math and figured out, how many packs you'll get as a completely free-to-play player over the course of like a month, and then what your expected outcome of that is. And it seemed pretty compelling to me. I think the biggest thing to think about when you look at building a deck as someone who's on a budget or someone who's free to play in this game and collecting these cards. A Pokemon Pocket deck actually has very few Pokemon in it. sure, we have 20 card decks, but a good number of those are trainers and supporters that you should have 2 copies of always anyway. So you don't really factor that into the, do I need this to build whatever deck? So it's usually just chasing a couple cards, whether it be your Articunos or your Mewtwo's or whatever. So you're only ever really a few cards away from having whatever deck you want to build. So that can feel good. And I think it can feel exciting as well. Just like every time you open up a pack being like, oh, if I get this card, I can finally build this deck. Because you're always just 1 or 2 pieces away from getting whatever you want.
Yeah, I agree. You go, Spraggles.
Sorry. Yeah, well, I was just gonna say this conversation it reminded me of something that I saw on my Discord, like maybe it was like a few days ago or something, like 5 days ago. There was this guy Kanado on my Discord was talking about their experience with free to play, because I was also sort of curious about this, right? Like, what is collecting gonna feel like for someone who's not paying? Because that's going to be a huge like determining factor as to how well this game does. Like, can they satisfy whales who want to give this game hundreds and hundreds of dollars upon release, and then often also that like middle ground of people who are like, I want to spend like 10 or 20 bucks maybe a month on this game, and then free to play. So this one dude free to play, he's been playing for about 2 weeks. He did like the 2 weeks free of premium, so I bet if it was global launch, I bet he might continue the premium. But he had 203 out of 206 cards in Genetic Apex, so he couldn't build every deck. He didn't have duplicates of everything. But from like just collecting the basic stuff to be able to put together a lot of decks, it didn't look too bad for a couple weeks of just playing the game. For me, I feel like I got somewhat lucky in the beginning pulling cards. And then I had a few days of like really bad luck where you pull, you'd like rip 10 packs in a row and you're like, I'm getting nothing here. This is a little frustrating. It's going to be hard for me to know what the collection feel is going to be for most every other player in the game. But I think given like what's like this dude said on my Discord, I think people would be pleasantly surprised if they just were a little smart about some of the packs they picked and just played the game free to play, or even like moderately like spending $10 a month or something like that. I think they'll be pretty happy with what they can unlock.
Yeah, because you go, Willow.
Sorry, I think there'll be a bit of a bad feeling if you've come from another card game and you jump into Pokemon Pocket and you'll be hit with these daily time gates, which I think feel good for someone who's kind of casually engaging with the game, logging in once a day. That 2 free packs a day with 0 engagement with the game feels really good. But if you're used to like grinding out another card game, trying to maximize your efficiency with resources, there's going to be this stopgap where you've opened up your 2 daily packs and you're going to think to yourself, well, now how do I progress? And as you're kind of learning the systems of Pokemon Pocket, you're probably going to feel like, oh, I can't do anything. I can't progress. I can't move my account forward through any type of manual progression, which is kind of an awkward position for them to be in for their game systems, speaking for DNA and Pokemon Company or whatever. But the end result is, I think, a really good system for someone who's casually engaging with the game. And I think there's a lot of value in the fact that their primary progression system, which is the 2 free daily packs, is entirely hands-off. You don't have to play the game, which I think feels really good, kind of going back to that idea of, people these days, gamers, have full-time jobs, families, lots of things to do during their day. It's really nice that they're not sacrificing any of their in-game progression because they couldn't dedicate 15 to 30 minutes to do their daily missions. All they had to do was log in and open up a pack.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think on the casual side, it's super good. It's those absolute grinders who they'll probably entice into spending money. But just speaking from my experience, so because I play a lot of gacha games and I always play them completely free to play, as soon as I spend money in a game, I kind of lose interest because it feels like I've broken the rules of the game. Like there was clear defined rules that I was playing to when I was playing free to play. And as soon as I spend money, it's like, well, that rule I broke. Why don't I just break this one? And like, it's just like a never-ending thing. So I actually prefer playing games free to play, and that's why with Pocket, I've got my spender account, which is there to build any deck I want. But I prefer playing on my free to play, which you guys can see this one. It's mirrored for you, but it's not on my recording. This is my free to play account. Now I re-rolled for the double crown Charizard. Then about 5 packs later, I got the crown Mewtwo, and I just yesterday got my second God pack in it, which gave me like double Marowak, double Koga, and the Articuno. But the thing I will say that I didn't expect, because I was coming into this game as I just want to build competitive decks and play. I don't care about the high rarity cards. Once you get a high rarity card, it is so, like, I can't express how fun it is playing with a playset of Crown Charizards, and just like as soon as you evolve that thing, it has more impact on you in your feeling of playing the game. And I did not expect that at all, but I think they actually did a great job with having the higher rarities, because you can functionally build the deck, but if you get that one special card, you now want to build the deck around it and have fun with it. So it adds that extra layer of enjoyment. I don't know if you guys found that as well, but I think it's super satisfying.
Yeah, I think they did such a good job. And they talked about this in like all their trailers. The whole thing's like, get all the cards, collect them, get cool rare cards. What do you want to do? Collect them? You're going to collect these cards? Like, they don't talk about battling at all. They just talk about the collecting cards aspect. And the way you swipe your finger to open a pack, the feeling when you see some stars shoot out and you're like, hey, something good's in here.
Yeah.
I've personally never gotten a God pack. I hate everyone. But someone who gets a God pack, that's, I mean, unbelievable. Like, the feeling must be unbelievable. But the first time I pulled Crown Pikachu, I did it day one. I pulled Crown Pikachu. I was like, this is amazing. And pulling like the immersives, pulling an immersive, it is a whole experience. They like are taking you into the car. Come on, right this way. Enjoy this amazing thing you've just done. Can you believe Mewtwo broke out of this? Like, you know, like you go through this whole journey. You see Charizard in battle. They absolutely nailed this aspect of the game. They absolutely nailed it. They might not be giving people enough packs. There might not be enough battling on the other side. That's going to really depend on this game's lifespan. But one thing that they like hit an absolute home run with is opening packs and getting a rare card. Like, you really feel like you got something, and that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and when you say about the immersives, the first time I saw that Charizard immersive, I was like, this is like, you know how they talk about what they can do with cards digitally that you can't in real life? Like, that, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, I get it. Because this is no longer just a card. This is like a really cool full battle scene artwork where that card, like, depending on where they pan it, like, it could have been a Gyarados card, it could have been a Dragonite card, it could have been, you know what I mean, a Venusaur card, just depending on where they shift that art. And I just think the way they do it, and the way each Pokemon is sort of like independent of the other, and they actually change the angles, like, the whole thing is wicked. And then the other aspect of the Mewtwo one is the music they play with the Mewtwo. Like, the audio is like another whole experience in itself. And I think as someone coming into it not caring about it, I'm like, why are they putting so much emphasis on the collection side? I just want to battle, and I don't need that to battle. Dude, I just got completely flipped on my head as soon as you like have that feeling of flexing a high rarity card when you go into battle. It's super satisfying. And the one other thing I think they nailed was having the existence of God packs. I feel like every time you open a pack, you're like, this could be it. It could be it. You never know. And so I think they did a really good design in the God packed aspect. Like, the fact that you can get like multiple Crown Rares in a God pack is ridiculous, considering how rare they normally are.
I wouldn't know. I don't have any of these Crown Rare cards like you guys. I've opened so many packs, man. One day it'll come, I believe.
You don't have any?
No, not a single one. I've got,
if you don't mind me, how much have you spent? Do you know?
I actually don't know, because I never did the New Zealand conversion, but I full spent 3 days, so whatever that is.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that's a lot to not hit a single crown,
across
I feel like.
Across all of my accounts, because I also run a free-to-play account, I've opened up over 1,000 packs. No Crown Rare in sight. So,
wow, that's a
well, you'll be able to get one with pack points soon, bud. Keep it up.
Yeah, I guess. I'm holding out that realistically, here's my best bet. I'll never get a Crown Rare in Genetic Apex. I'm happy with that. But that just means set 2, I'm going to have crazy luck. First pack's going to have all 3 Crown Rares in it, 100%.
Dude.
My luck is just charging up, that's all. You know?
It has to be. That has to be the case, for sure.
The craziest one for me was on my spender account. I'd like pretty much done the Pikachu pack, except I needed one more Pikachu, and I was like, hey guys, don't worry about it. We'll just jump into Mewtwo pack, and we'll pull a Crown Rare Pikachu in that pack. actually did it in the next
What?
10 packs.
This guy.
It was insane. But yeah, I think that's like the collection side, A+ on that. I do think they're trying things with the social aspect with the, the binders and stuff. The one thing I would love to see them do in a social aspect is be able to save replays of battles and share them.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be cool.
I think that would be a really cool thing. That's probably just me because I'm a creator, and it'd just be really cool to have that feature. But that's me being a bit greedy. But what I wanted to ask you guys next was, what is your, not best deck, favorite deck to play in the game that you get the most enjoyment out of? For people that are waiting for global and they're like, what's something fun that I could build and play? What's your most enjoyable deck?
Okay, I'll give like
You can give
two
a few.
like quick answers. Yeah. I love Blaine. I think Blaine is great, and I have not had a lot of fun with like fire type decks. Like I kind of don't love Moltres just ramping up things. Like I think it's kind of boring. I'm loving like Blaine with like Rapidash, Ninetales, Magmar, and just playing a really fast-paced, aggressive Blaine deck. I think that's been super fun. And I think in general, I've kind of enjoyed that. And then something dumb. This isn't... I don't know if everyone feels like me. I don't always care about like what the most meta thing is. In fact, I find the things that are really, really good in meta kind of boring in most games. It's probably just that little piece of me that's like, well, I won with the bad deck. But that's what I want to do, I think.
Yeah.
So I made like a few different variations of a steel deck that I really, really enjoyed. Mainly because you never run into fire, so you don't have to worry about that too much. And if you do, it's like, okay, that's not so great. But otherwise, I just kind of like running things that people don't see a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that's been, for me, that's been super fun, is stuff like that. Or a really silly flip deck. Like just playing something like you've got Doug Trio and Marowak, and you're like, let's go. Whatever happens here, like I'm flipping coins.
Yeah, I think the steel deck is actually like, it's just like a little bit of support away from being really good, because when you look at Pawniard Bishop in a 30-70 100 combo 1-2 punch, like that's a pretty big 1-2 damage. I think that's the most 1-2 damage you get in a linear play in the game, which is actually really potent. It just feels good to be swinging super hard. And then, you've got the other aspect, which is if someone's playing more of a technical deck without a big burst, and you put that Melmetal out, it's like they just can't deal enough damage to get you down, and it's super satisfying. So I agree with you on that one. And as for the Blaine, the cool thing I found about Blaine is you're like, oh, but you're using Ninetales that discards, and you got like, but you're running cards that only need 2 or 1 energy. So if you have like a Rapidash out at the start, then you put a Vulpix on the bench and put 1 energy on it, your energy's solved for the rest of this game, because anything you need to do with energy, you just need to place it the turn you play it. And those heavy aggro decks with low, like high energy efficiency, I definitely agree are super fun. What about you, Willow?
I hate to be that guy. But I do really like my Mewtwo God of War, okay? Listen, I know it's like best deck in the game or whatever, but I think the gameplay pattern's actually really fun. Just hitting people for 150 and using the God of War to do it again. It's just, I don't know, I have a lot of fun with that. I'll give a non-meta answer because I know the meta one is boring. I really, really enjoy Dragonite. Dragonite is like just so much fun, and I'm a big believer in Hypno as well. I run Hypno on my Dragonite deck. I just put him on the bench, let them do their sleep pendulum.
So he's a troll.
No, whoa. I actually have a bit of a history for playing these types of uninteractive decks. I did a lot of Galactus in Marvel Snap, which was notoriously hated for being the most uninteractive card in the game. These types of decks are things that I enjoy. So yeah, I've got a lot of hours on Dragonite, and I would have way more hours on Mewtwo if my Twitch chat didn't yell at me every time I played it. So.
Yeah.
Can I throw one other out there that I saw the other day? I haven't played this. My friend Zoinks, who's like he's a Unite commentator, and I think he might be making some Pocket content soon. He had a Dragonite deck with Aerodactyl in it, which is so annoying. I have not really dealt with Aerodactyl at all, but it's 2 energy. You flip a coin, and if you get heads, you just send the opponent like their cards back to their deck, which is an absurd like stall card to have for Dragonite. So you're powering up Dragonite on the bench, and then you have this thing that's kind of like if it gets really lucky, it's sort of busted. You know, you'll like send a stage 2 back to your opponent's hand, which or not hand, excuse me, back to their deck, which is crazy. So I had to shout that out too, because I love weird stuff that's probably not meta, but is so fun when it works.
Yeah, something that shocked me was the way they actually made Koga work with Weezing and Muck. The fact that even the cards below them get put back to your hand. I was like, I think it's just from my days of playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Where, you know, if you Xyz or something, then you bounce that back to the hand, it goes to the extra deck, and then all the others go to the graveyard. And like, once I saw it, I'm like, wait, everything gets bounced back? Are you kidding me? So you just get to rinse and repeat that play? Like, that was a really cool thing that I wasn't expecting, just because of what my predetermined thoughts were on how it would work. And then once I saw how it worked, I was like, that is really cool. And I think those are a bit fun. But I definitely do love the Dragonite deck. It's just that full RNG, like you bring him out, you could do 200 damage to something with 10 HP, or you get the perfect spread and absolutely wipe. And I just enjoy playing Dragonite. But I think for me, the other deck that I really enjoy, which I don't know why I enjoy it so much, well, I do, is the Charizard deck. Because like the Moltres setup is super slow and everything, but there's nothing more satisfying than having a Charizard with 4 or 5 energy on it, putting it forward and knowing there is nothing they can do to win, and you've just got like this epitome of a Pokemon, and it's like there's nothing, like the deck loses so much to Bricks and Sabrinas, but when you get the setup of, say, they kill your Moltres, you have no one else on the bench, you put Charizard up, it's like there is literally nothing you can do for the next 2 turns to win this game. It's just that super satisfying thing. Unless you find a sleep deck, then I just rage quit. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So now I want to wrap it up. We're getting close to an hour. What would you guys like to see added to the game, global launch and beyond? Not what you're expecting, just something that you think would be fun or you'd enjoy in the game.
Hey, I'll let you start, Willow, if you've got one.
Oh, thanks for the big question that we weren't prepared for. I'll go first, definitely.
I'll start. I can start if you want me
go for it. I don't want to use all my brain power. Good luck.
Okay, sure. I think everybody's going to say this. We would love like a ranked mode, some sort of progression. Like any game like this, you want a reason. Just as we talked about earlier, there's not really a reason to grind for any additional cards or anything like that right now. So having something that you could grind, even if there's no progression and unlocking cards, I think would be huge. Of course, I think a lot of people want trading. I think the form trading comes in is not going to be exactly how people want it. If they have like multiple phones, they're like, I'll trade over my crown rares. Like, no, you won't. You're gonna need 3 of them before they let you trade.
Yep.
So I think that would be like the ranked mode, I think, is like the biggest thing for me. And then after that, I would love to see Pokemon support this with some sort of tournament scene for it. With Pokemon Unite, the other game I cover, like they started supporting it real quickly. They had a professional tournament scene right away. They were at their world championships right away. I don't think this is going to follow the same trajectory because they want their TCG to be like that's what they want their card game championships to be. But I think it would be really cool if we saw a version of ranked and then we saw a Pokemon like officially support like a tournament or competitive scene for this game. I think that would be great for all of the people who don't feel like there's enough to do in the game right away.
Yeah, I also think it depends how much money it earns. Like, because at the end of the day, they're running a business. If it does really well, wouldn't surprise me to see them. You know, those little cards you get when you open physical packs that goes to TCG Live. I feel like as soon as this thing starts making money and they realize this is a much bigger cash cow than what Live is, it wouldn't surprise me if they shifted people there to try and generate more revenue. But there is a lack of continuity in the style of game that it is. So I don't know. But yeah, I definitely think the support they give it will depend on how much success it has as well. But just while we're on that topic, I wanted to ask you, Spraggles, because you come from Pokemon games. Obviously, I don't know who develops Unite, whether it's same developers, publishers, and stuff like that. But the one thing I've noticed is they've got a very minute amount of social activity, and that might just be because we're in soft launch. But normally when I'm playing like gacha games, which once again different space, but if they're coming up towards a release, they're posting stuff on the socials every day, multiple posts per day, hyping people up, whereas this one's kind of just been radio silence.
Yeah, it's been interesting, right? I think one thing for sure is they want to make sure that the game is like ready to go. You never know. They could always push a launch, right? Just as you talked about, there are a lot of times where a game is in soft launch for a year. Like there are games that are in soft launch for like a whole year before they actually come out globally. So that could be happening, but I've noticed Pokemon kind of ramps things up right near a release, and their pull or put whatever, however you would look at it, they're just so massive and so their IP is so powerful that a few posts about something coming out and a talk about on a Pokemon Presents, which I think they might have one very close to the launch of this. Maybe it's like right on the launch or something. Like they just talk about it a little bit and all of a sudden their things blow up. Like Pokemon Unite had 100 million downloads or something like that. So you could imagine that like this game, them just talking about it a little bit for the global launch would just kind of blow up in a huge way.
Yeah, I guess it's the size of the IP means that they don't have to do the conventional things that smaller IPs have to do. That's fair. Hey, Willow, have you had enough time to think, mate, or do you need a bit more yap time to fill in your thoughts?
I've been cooking. I think that as far as like features that I would personally want in the game, this isn't something I expect them to do or something that they even necessarily should do as far as like allocating resources or whatever. But one thing that I think would be really cool is kind of one of two. This can be done in one of two ways, but some game mode that people can actually queue in game that they don't have to do like their own personal format for or private format for, like an actual alternate game mode that is just non-EXs. A lot of people have a lot of issues with things like Articuno EX, Aptos EX, even Moltres EX, like these starting the game with these in play. And I don't necessarily think those are bad problems for the actual competitive integrity for the game, but I do understand like the feels bad of those starting the game and having some of these kind of lower power level cards to have their own little format to be able to play relatively competitively. I think would be a good thing, not only for just kind of have the ability to play some weaker cards in a competitive environment, but also for people who don't have complete collections or don't have the exact cards they want, they might be able to take some of the cards they do have into that format and still have a good time. So yeah, just an alternate format with no EX cards, I think would be a good time for a lot of people.
You've actually made me draw a parallel that I had not thought about until now, which is Pokemon Go. And I feel like Pokemon Go is very correlated to the way this is going, where remember when it launched, there was no PvP, like it was just all catching the Pokemon, all collecting, which this is kind of like looking at. And then it got into more PvP, and now Pokemon Go has those leagues. Like it has rotating leagues where it's like you've got the little league where you can only use 500 power and below. Like it's got all those types of things. So I definitely think that is a great idea that they could do, even if it's not like a permanent mode, but like maybe rotating different special condition modes that allow you to experiment more and have fun with different decks that you otherwise wouldn't play. I think that's a great idea. But anything else you guys want to talk about before we cap it off?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm excited to see what this does for the global launch. I really, like you said, I mean, if this thing makes money, they'll put more resources into it, and you could imagine all of this stuff. You could imagine the game. You could imagine a really cool ranked progression. You could imagine different cups that you would compete in. You could imagine competitive modes, and then of course new collections with like this like insane immersive card style. The future could be really bright for this game, but it's all going to depend on how people connect with it and if they actually want to spend money. I can tell you, everyone in New Zealand has spent an insane amount of money on this game so far.
Actually, I haven't even looked it up on some of the tracking websites. I should see what kind of revenue it's done on some of the app tracking, because essentially, because they don't have a PC client, you will be able to get a good gauge of what the actual app stores are generating. So that's one to definitely watch. But yeah, I think it could be a bit insane towards global launch, which leads me to one last thing that I want to say to people before you jump in. Before you start dumping all your cash into the game, keep in mind that over time, like over a month, 30 days, you'll get 60 packs free. So yeah, if you're that person that wants to get everything day one, that's fine. But just note, if you get everything day one, you're gonna have a lot of packs that you don't really have much use for. So just you can ease into it. Build one deck that you're happy with and cruise on if you want to save a little bit of cash.
Yeah, if you're a player on a budget, try to get like one deck that you're comfortable with, that you can play and you feel competitive on it. You feel like you could win, any matchup with this deck. Play that deck and just let your free packs cruise the rest of your collection. Yeah, use your resources wisely.
100%.
And for me, I would just say, like, just spend as much money as you possibly can. Like, take out debt for this. Like,
mortgage the house.
Exactly. If you don't have a second mortgage yet, everybody's got a second mortgage. Just get one of those.
But that's a good way to wrap it up. Once again, these boys will be doing that tournament. When was it, Spraggles? Repeat it.
It is October 28th, Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific time.
Beautiful. I'll leave that linked. Go check out the trailer once again. It's hilarious. Massive shout out to you boys for coming on. Really appreciate the connections. I love connecting in the games that I get into. So really appreciate you guys. And once again, all their links will be in the description and the pinned comment. Go show the guys some love. And yeah, as always, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day. And we'll look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.